Nobody ever thought a highway crash would open a country's darkest closet. Jacob Meyer certainly didn't. He was 27 years old, the night editor of the Norwald Post, although Post was just two damp basement rooms that smelled of old paper and cold coffee. Norwald was a foggy port city in Western Europe, the kind of place people could barely find on a map. Its streets were gray, its politics murky. Jacob's life was endless nights, cheap coffee, an unpaid rent envelope pushed under a mug. But Jacob carried old scars. His father had served for years as a quiet cop in Norwald's police force. Jacob had grown up watching that uniform age faster than any man should. Secrets buried, files lost, justice twisted. When his father's career ended in a scandal that nobody fully explained, the family fled to a small town. Since then, Jacob had sworn he'd chase the truth, no matter who tried to silence it, though so far, no one had listened. Until that night. It began on the E47 highway, Norwald's northern exit. The night was cold and misty. Somewhere past a sharp bend, a black sedan left a trail of skid marks and ended up nose down in the roadside mud, flipped on its roof. A farmer returning home at dawn found it first. His tractor headlights cut through the dark to reveal shattered glass, twisted metal, a cracked windshield, and steam pouring into the night air. Inside the car were two men. One in the driver's seat, no ID, no trace. The other was Alan Richter, once deputy of the Interior Ministry and the hidden master of Norwald's Security Commission. Officially retired years ago, but nobody really believed Richter had ever stepped away. When the police arrived, they taped the area off in bright yellow lines. Inside the trunk, they found something the headlines would never forget. Sealed envelopes, official files with burnt corners, documents dated back decades. And an old cassette, labeled in shaky handwriting. No copy. Jacob got the first word from Lars, a nervous police contact. Big, crash, Richter, files everywhere. Stay silent, but get ready. Jacob abandoned his cold coffee, scribbled E47-Richter on a post-it, and grabbed his old leather jacket. He jumped on the first bus heading north. By the time he got there, the rain was light but steady. Police lights flickered across the soaked highway. Forensic teams knelt by the broken car, their boots sinking in the mud. Through the trees, Jacob watched them pack up charred pages and sealed bags. He caught a glimpse of Richter's body under a white sheet as they lifted it onto a stretcher. He'd seen that face 100 times in old articles, half-whispered scandals, rumors about secret deals. Richter was legend, or maybe a curse. When the last officer turned away, Jacob ducked under the yellow tape. His boots sank in the wet grass. He scanned the ditch for anything the police missed. There, half buried in the mud, he saw a metal box glint under the moonlight. He pulled it free. The cassette. He slipped it inside his jacket. He felt a chill run down his spine, as if Richter was standing behind him, whispering, "If you have this tape, Norwald will burn." Jacob needed one person, Eric. Eric was an old radio technician, a ghost in Norwald's backstreets. He'd once fixed Jacob's father's broken tape deck. Eric's workshop was a mess of neon lights, coils of dusty wires, old speakers and radios cracked open like rib cages. Jacob laid the cassette on Eric's workbench. No questions. Eric plugged in a battered player, pressed play, the hiss of old tape. Then Richter's voice, rough but calm. "If you hear this, I'm gone. They'll come for me because I'm not their pawn. I'm the master. I've moved their pieces for years, but every player wakes up someday." Near the end, Richter's breath sounded ragged. The voice turned to a whisper. "There are no accidents, only bad moves." Jacob slumped against the bench. Eric lit a cigarette, the smoke curling toward the buzzing neon. Outside, Norwald's wet streets were silent, but Richter's ghost was alive in that hiss. Next morning, Jacob and Eric sat in the basement office of the Norwald Post. Jacob checked the old printing press, untouched for years. The metal cylinders squealed as he turned them by hand. They filled new ink, wiped the grime away. When the machine clanked to life, the first headline hit the page. E47, Beyond the Crash, Richter's Final File. The story shook Norwald like an unexpected storm. Within days, the tape's digital rip spread to the deep web. Jacob and Eric quietly leaked the part with Richter's master's speech. Parliament called an emergency session. Ex-ministers who once called Richter a patriot now fell silent. Some vanished overnight, catching flights to nowhere. Others locked their doors and prayed the phone wouldn't ring. Jacob stopped sleeping at home. Every night he carried the remaining files between cheap motels. He called his mother once, just enough to say he was alive. Eric became his shadow, passing updates scribbled on napkins. At 3 a.m., they argued in tiny hotel rooms about what to release next. One night, Eric asked, "What if Richter planned it all? The crash, this tape. Maybe it wasn't an accident at all." Jacob couldn't answer. In his head, Richter's whisper looped like a ghost. "There are no accidents, only bad moves." One night, in a moldy hotel hallway, someone knocked 3 times. When Jacob cracked the door, he found a tall man in a black coat standing under a flickering light. No words. The man held out a brown envelope, pressed it into Jacob's hands, and vanished into the shadows. Jacob sat on the edge of the bed, tearing the seal open with shaking fingers. Inside, pages covered in Richter's sharp handwriting, more names, offshore accounts, hidden codes for people buried deep in the government. At the end, Richter's final line: "Unfinished moves never stay buried." Jacob didn't sleep. Before dawn, he sent Eric a single message: "If I disappear, publish it all. My name too." Then he packed the envelope and waited for the midnight train out of Norwald. As the city's rusted rooftops disappeared behind rain-blurred glass, Jacob pressed his forehead to the window. Richter's whisper stayed with him. No accidents. Only bad moves. Weeks turned to months. Norwald Post's doors were locked, but the truth refused to stay dead. Every time the site went dark, a new mirror popped up. Jacob's leaks spread on pirate sites, hidden servers, hacked news feeds. Some people called him a hero. Others called him Richter's last pawn. Years later, far away under a new name, Jacob sat in a dim cafe, listening to an old news channel on a flickering TV. Richter's voice still played, "If you hear this, Norwald will burn." At the next table, a man copied down the line on a napkin. Jacob paid his bill, pulled his coat tighter, and whispered to himself, "Maybe I am Richter's pawn. But this game, it's too big for anyone to kill now." As he stepped out into the rain, Norwald's old secrets still clung to him like smoke. Somewhere out there, people still argued if Richter died by accident, or if he staged his final move to keep the next players awake at night. Jacob no longer cared. He had become the ghost that whispered back, "Checkmate is never final."